pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Happy to be here in person. No mask, well, fun mask, but this is the way the meeting should take place. We can actually see each other, and especially the way the WebEx has been the last few months. So just jumping right in. All right, first agenda item is to act on the minutes from the September 22nd, 2021 meeting, which were included in the packet. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at it?
Yeah.
Any issues, corrections?
I just have a question. I read through the minutes today and just want to see if it's proper protocol. I know a few of us, I think McKay, Dylan, and I, we had some trouble getting on. We were on the police commission call. So is that normal if we're not on the call, but technically we're at the meeting to abstain?
I would say if you heard...
Fuck you. Fuck you.
All right, Mr. Flynn, can you please leave the line? Thank you.
Excellent.
No, that would be Kevin Flynn.
And what is the issue with my question?
I didn't see an issue with the question. However, back to your question. I would say if you heard the discussion, then you absolutely could partake in the vote on the minutes as opposed to...
No, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean,
that would be
I
my
voted
suggestion.
in favor regardless. I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of two ways we could have handled it. We could have said that you were not there.
That was it. I was just trying to figure out proper protocol.
Or say you're abstaining.
But
I'm questioning. Didn't I say?
Due to technical difficulties?
Yeah.
No, I know we said that due to technical difficulty, the Brendan McKean and Pamela Dale were not able to, but I thought we modified it to say that they were not in attendance. No?
We came on, I think, on the third item.
Okay, so you were in attendance.
We were in attendance, so, I guess it's almost like poker, you just kind of throw everything in, even though they're there and they're not at the table.
Well, we had a quorum. We voted. We didn't need your votes, so I guess my preference would be to just keep it as is.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I had no question. Exactly. I would have voted the way it was voted.
Yeah, but we didn't. Yeah, it turns out we didn't need it. So
okay.
As long as everyone's okay with that, we'll just accept the minutes as presented.
Sorry,
Sure.
my name's wrong. I just noticed it says Margaret Horton Weeks. It's actually the other way around.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you can actually, the weeks that you can drop, I don't care if it's in there or not, but
Okay.
Horton is technical.
Okay. Now that one's painful to me because I take great pride in going through and picking up all these things. I apologize.
Oh God, it's not a big deal. Thank you.
All right, so you make that adjustment and then the minutes will be accepted. Okay. Public input. Kelly, was there anything?
No.
Okay, then directly into new business. Brooke Lalumere?
Yes, she's on the phone.
And this is Brooke, the request to hold the Stratfield Shop and Stroll on November 20, 2021, with the rain date the 21st, 10 to 2 at Lincoln Park, with all proceeds going directly to support Operation Hope. Brooke, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Did I get your name close?
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Yes, but it's muffled.
Okay, well, Brooke, if you could just start by giving us your address for the record and then present the request.
Yes, my address is 546 Jackman Avenue, Fairfield. And the request is to hold a shop and stroll event in the park, Jackman Park or Lincoln Park, on November 20th and my thought was to have local vendors there, to pay a $25 table fee, and then the proceeds would all go to Operation Hope. Similar layout to exactly what we did at Parkapalooza, and the community just seemed to love it.
Okay, and you would expect how many vendors? And
I could do anywhere between 20 and 30. At Parkapalooza, we were able to fit 22, and we had room to throw in a few more.
And I'm sorry, this is November 20th.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Gotta mute that guy.
Is that the same
It's
guy?
the same guy. It's Mr. Kevin Flynn, again.
Wow.
I don't take it personally.
Brooke, this is November 20th of 2021, correct? A month from now?
Correct.
All right. Anyone have any questions?
I heard there was great success with the last event down there. Would there be a beer truck, food truck? Have you spoken to the police?
No alcohol trucks. I did have interest in having that proof pizza truck back again, and but I would just have the one food truck.
Okay, and that doesn't, to me, that doesn't really sound like you would have to hire a police officer. In fact, probably a lot of locals.
I'm sorry, if that was a question, I missed it.
Do you think you would need to hire a police officer? I'm guessing maybe no.
I don't think so. My thought was that it would be just people in the neighborhood on foot. We did a very informal one on our front lawns last year around the same time, and it just provided a nice sense of community leading up to the holidays. So no, I wouldn't think we need an officer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, it's Brian again. You mentioned that you're going to advertise via social media and mailing lists. How extensive is that going to be? Because that could come right back to your question about the police officer.
I was just referring to my social media account and my mailing list. So, you know, in honesty, I'm thinking it's really directly to serve the neighbors.
Okay, so if you had to make a guess, what would the attendance be, and how many additional cars would there be?
Cars, honestly, I think it would serve, I'd say 150 people, and I would say 80% of them on foot. You know, or if it's like a neighbor says to her girlfriend, oh, come on over and we can shop the neighborhood market.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone like this idea or want to support it? Make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. We have Bridget and Bonnie. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Hearing none. All in favor?
Yay.
McKay, are you there?
Yes, I'm a yay.
Yay, okay. All right, it's unanimous. All right, Ms. Valenari.
Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Dylan O'Connor.
Yes.
Our own Dylan O'Connor, on behalf of the Stratfield Village Association.
Yes.
Seeking permission to use Lincoln Park and Jackman Avenue for the second annual Lincoln Parkapalooza on September 10, 2022, rain date September 11, 2022, 2 p.m. to 9:30.
Yep. Nice to see everybody after being on the commission for 8 months and not seeing anyone's face, so it's good to see everybody. We're just making the same request that we made last year for the SBA to use Lincoln Park from 2 to 9:30 to have Lincoln Park-A-Palooza, which is a fundraiser for the Stratfield section of town. We're going to do everything exactly as we did it this year. So we'll block off Jackman Ave, keeping in mind that we need to have an egress for the Fairfield, for the fire department over there. We will have food trucks around the park. We'll have some music and maybe some magicians, kid shows in the park between the hours of 2 and 9:30. We'll do all the cleaning that we did this year. We'll have a staff of volunteers. We'll hire 2 police officers to make sure that everything is good from a behavior standpoint. We'll have porta potties like we did last year. The event this year was extremely smooth. We had no complaints. I double-checked with the Fairfield Police Department to make sure, so there's been no complaints. All the feedback was really, really positive. It didn't hurt that we had really nice weather, but, it's just a nice community event and a good fundraiser for the Stratfield Village Association.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Has the Four Corners project broken ground?
No, hopefully spring next year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking back at our minutes from February 17th, and at which you said it'd be the last fundraiser before you break ground. So
Correct.
A little behind schedule then.
We are a little behind schedule, and this is, so assuming we're beyond the Four Corners, this will go to fund some of the other projects in the neighborhood that we're spearheading.
Since we did all receive the correspondence from Daniel Ford,
Yep.
Can you address this?
Sure.
I'm sorry, did everyone receive?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So Septemberfest is the same weekend every year, and we have traditionally had the FBA has had their fundraiser generally at the same time. In terms of being back-to-back with them. It used to be that we were the week after Septemberfest, but this week, because of, a couple of things, scheduling and band issues, we had to do it before them. And so, it's really, from a logistical standpoint, it's easy for the neighborhood to have both of the events. There's no reason why you can't have one back-to-back. Like I said, the roads are closed off, so there are no traffic issues. Nobody's driving. All the parking around there is street parking. They have told us that they don't want us to use their parking lots, which is fine because there's plenty of parking in the neighborhoods around there. So, there's really no reason why you can't have 2 events there back to back. And like I said, traditionally, this event has been after theirs, and, they seem to be okay with that. But for some reason, if ours is before theirs, it becomes an issue for them. I'm not exactly sure why.
Okay, thank you. So you guys raised over $900,000. That's
over $1 million now.
Oh, that's commendable. And how much did this one event raise last year?
We raised about $35,000 with this event.
Anyone else have any questions for Dylan?
I just read through Attorney Ford's letter, and again, you could probably just answer the way you did, but what do you think their main concern is?
I have heard that they do not want our event to be before theirs because they feel like that means less ability for them to raise funds.
Okay.
Which I think, like I said, traditionally our event has been after theirs. It hasn't affected our ability to raise money. I don't know about their ability to raise money. I can't answer that, but I know that when we were after their event and when we were before their event, it didn't have an impact on us.
Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion? I don't if we're at a point where there's no further questions and someone wants to just jump in without me asking about that, feel free. Okay, we have a motion from Margaret, second from Jamie. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Nothing to say?
I will just note for the record that the Four Corners project is delayed through no fault of SBA.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, you want to note that, and you know, it's Mark, right? Okay. All right, so back to the commission. All those in favor? Okay?
Aye. Yes.
Okay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? And Dylan is abstaining. All right. Next up, we have Mark Barnhart, Director of Community and Economic Development, to consider an act on proposed dedication of land comprising approximately 1/2 acre abutting 244 Greenfield Street for affordable housing.
I wasn't sure how to describe it, but that seemed like the apt description. So hopefully you all received the information I provided to you.
Mark, if you would,
I'm sorry. My name is Mark Barnhart. I'm Director of Community Economic Development. I'm here on behalf of the Affordable Housing Committee.
And you reside at?
I reside at 36 Deerfield Lane in Monroe.
Oh. Didn't you used to live on Scouting Hill?
For this purposes, I reside at 611 Old Forest Road, because I live there most of the time.
Really?
So I'm here to ask for your permission to dedicate a portion of what is the back half of Huntsville Park, I guess. It's an unimproved wooded section. It abuts this particular property, 244 Greenfield Street. It's roughly 1/2 acre. What I was proposing to do was extend the existing rear lot line from the abutting property directly across, which will provide sufficient amount of property for our purposes. And what we're trying to do is we're in discussions to purchase 244 Greenfield Street. And it's an undersized, non-conforming lot in a residency zone. The owner had originally approached the town through the first selectwoman to inquire about the possibility of acquiring town property we're talking about, if the town were to sell it to him for purposes of building a duplex. And at that time, to build market rate housing to dedicate or actually sell town property, first selectwoman didn't think that was such a good idea, but had asked whether or not he was interested in doing the opposite, which was if we were to purchase his property, would he consider that? And he said, sure. So we reached an agreement. It's subject to the approval of various town boards. I've presented it to the Affordable Housing Committee, and they have agreed to finance the purchase of it. But the purchase is also subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen and RTM. We also have to refer any purchase, lease, or sale of town property to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission under 824, a section of the general statute. So there's a number of other approvals that are needed here. But this whole thing is predicated on the ability to basically create a legal conforming duplex building lot. So we need more property, and that's why I'm coming to you. Similar to what many years ago I approached this board, about dedicating what became Greenfield Commons, a 1/2 acre pocket park on Villa Greenfield Street. We then created 10 units of senior housing with your help. And so what we're looking to do here is also ask for your permission to dedicate this portion of Huntsville Park. It's roughly 6/10 of an acre per the compilation plan that I had engineering put together. And then we would go out, seek a development partner, and hopefully construct 1 or 2 duplexes on that property, similar to what we did with the owner-built housing down the street, about 500 yards or so. East south of this location, we have some owner-built housing that was back in the 1980s and 90s. So that's what we're looking to do. I'm happy to answer the question.
The properties, once the duplexes, 2 duplexes.
We're hoping to get 2 duplexes.
Once they're constructed, are they're rentals, or are they going to be sold?
We would propose to do owner-built housing. Well, we're proposed to do affordable home ownership units. So they would be for sale, just subject to a deed restriction to make sure that they're permanently affordable. So they'll have a resale limit,
and there'll also be, the income, the purchaser, prospective purchaser would have the income. So they'll be restricted, per se.
So how's the finances of that work? The partner that comes in would be selling it and
So
making a profit?
we would be asking, more than likely, we'd be partnering with a nonprofit development partner, similar to what we did with Greenfield Commons. So they would bring equity to the table or the ability to raise money to fund to finance the construction. We're financing the acquisition of the adjoining property. We may end up donating that to help subsidize this so that it, pencils out ultimately. But that's the overall intent. So we would ask the development partner not only to prepare plans, but also raise some of the monies, and we would assist in that. We would help with the permitting process, but we'd like them to oversee the construction. That's a little different than what we did with the owner build. We actually did everything, soup to nuts. So we put together plans, we did the financing, we oversaw construction. So I think this model would work better because it's not something we traditionally do as town government. So we would look for somebody with that expertise.
And is there any discussion with the contiguous property as well?
Not yet, but subject to, this moving ahead, I would reach out to the abutting property owner and see if there's some interest at some point in the future. So you might be able to square that off a little bit. That is part of the future plan. At the very minimum, I would like to make sure that he's aware of what we're trying to do here. We would do that as part of our outreach.
Just for the commission, I did go out there and didn't necessarily walk the property, but I walked through the property and took a look back, and the closest corner to the field, the lower soccer field that Ward freshmen use in the baseball, is probably 400 feet away through the woods. Mm-hmm. And they're like nasty woods too. It's not, you're going to have some job cleaning that out. So I don't think that piece of the property would fall under our 50-year plan of use by the Parks and Rec Commission. Anyone else? Yeah, Chris.
I concur with Brian. I think the location is acceptable. My concerns are you are partnering with a development partner who's clearly, we use the word nonprofit. Again, I want to find more information who that is. And let's just go down the line. Is this going to be a lottery system? What is the arbiter in terms of this? Is this who has first choice? If we go lottery system, is it a family? Is it elderly? Is it disability? How are we deciding?
Well, what we did was we've done a couple different systems. Most recently with Parkview Commons, we did the lottery system. So we had the qualified prospective purchasers of the units that were offered for sale, and then we did a lottery system. So we did provide some additional benefit, chances, if you will, for folks that had some connection to the community or military personnel and their families. So that was old military housing, as well as those least likely to apply. But it was a lottery.
Okay, and in terms of a lottery system, how does that work? Because when you're dealing with, a younger crowd, they may be more apt to apply, whereas someone who's disabled may not have access to that. They may not be aware.
Yeah,
that's elderly.
That's part of our marketing. That would be part of our marketing plan to ensure that we made sure
make it fair.
Folks had access to the same equal access to our opportunity to apply. So we want to make sure that we're providing adequate notice to anyone who would like to purchase.
But what's the notice?
Through a variety of different means. We've used anything from print the traditional print publications, press releases, the things on our website, social media, all those good things. So,
I mean, my big concern is, again, with, disability housing and elderly housing, we're at a dearth in this town. And it's all great when we have 830G housing.
well, they may not be the best, so we're thinking of this as home ownership opportunity.
Okay.
So certainly there are seniors, if we that may want a smaller unit. These would be townhome style duplex units.
So this is in the early stages, obviously.
Yeah.
When would you be considering breaking ground on this,
Probably
after approval?
I would say if everything is approved, we close on the property in December, I would say no earlier than 2023. Because
Okay.
we'll need to actually develop, obviously, we have to secure a development partner, and then negotiate the development agreement would be subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen RTM, have to prepare plans, secure financing, plans that have to be approved by planning and zoning, and then we would go, solicit contracts, proposals to construct it.
Brian makes,
So it's gonna be a while.
Chairman makes a great point. Before you go through all that, and before we give you approval, what have the neighbors said?
I don't see this as
Red
anything
herring.
different than what we already built, right down the street, so, and it's certainly residential, it's actually a transitional neighborhood between residential and commercial, so it's a perfect location for what is the proposed use. It has great access to shopping, bus routes, and the like, so I think it would appeal to a host of folks, including seniors as well as...
No, I agree with you. I think the location's great. It's just like, I just would love to see a little bit more detail going forward.
Yeah.
Hey,
Don't
this
go
is-
anywhere without-
sorry.
Basically, if I don't have these approvals, we don't go through with the sale or the purchase of the property. That's the bottom line. I made the purchase of a condition because without this, we have no project. So, that's...
This is McKay. I apologize if this was brought up. It was really hard to hear the presentation on the phone. But what's the anticipated economic benefit to the town?
Well, the economic benefit is creating additional affordable home ownership units, which are...
No. What's the actual economic
We're not
benefit
looking
to
for
the town?
ROI on this.
But you're head of economic development, right?
I also work as staff to the Affordable Housing Committee, so this is strictly a matter of trying to create additional affordable home ownership opportunities in town. I'm here as the Community Development Director. How's that?
Okay.
This is not an economic development initiative in its purest form.
Anthony, any concerns on your end as far as this being?
No,
Central Park?
No, I think the key takeaway from this proposal is this piece of land that they're looking to utilize is really nothing that we're ever going to be able to utilize for park space. So outside of losing a little bit of green space, I think the benefit of having the affordable housing units outweighs that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I concur with that opinion. Any other questions?
Thank you.
We're not done yet. We haven't.
Don't leave.
Yeah, please sit down. So, someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to, for the town to dedicate this piece of property, for purposes of economic development and affordable housing.
All right. Very good. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? All right. Back to the commission. All those in favor? Okay?
No.
Okay. So we have 7 yay, 1 nay. It passes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
I'll keep you posted.
See you, Mark.
next up, Joseph Sargent, on behalf of the Knights of Columbus, requests to have a Christmas crush vigil on the Sherman Green from 12/31/21, 5 p.m. until 12/25/21 at 8 a.m. And Mr. Sargent, my apologies that you are here in October and you were not on the agenda for September.
No worries, glad to be here now. Joe Sargent, I'm a co-applicant. My home address is 525 Wormwood Road. The other applicant, I'm also as a representative as an elected official for the Knights of Columbus Council 2616. And to my left is one of our officers. I'm sorry, Thomas.
Tom McShane.
Sorry, Thomas. Here. So I just want to go back. And to clear up some of the confusion about our application last year. We're applying as the Knights of Columbus for 2616. The staffing of the manning of the creche is going to be by members of all the parishes here in town. The Knights have been doing this since 1989, when the Board of Representatives passed a resolution in response to a gentleman by the name of Nello Ciccarelli's placement of a creche without authorization on the town green. The Board of Selectmen passed a resolution authorizing the use of a certain aspect of the town green, provided that Nello or somebody had to be with the creche at all times for 3 days, and that they had a sign with 6-inch letters saying that it was not endorsed by the town of Fairfield and identifying the sponsor. So since that time going forward, the Knights of Columbus have taken over when Nello got a little too older, and we've been complying with all those requirements. To the best of my knowledge, the creche has always been staffed. We've always complied with insurance. We've cleaned up after ourselves, and we've always had a lit sign saying that there's no endorsement by the town of Fairfield and identifying our group as endorsing the sign. I note that the resolution that was passed was never codified by the Board of Representatives. The representative town meeting was never codified, and I actually don't even think the Board of Selectmen had any authority to pass such a resolution. And I looked at the 1986 charter, which says the legislative authority is exclusive to the RTM. We've never challenged our obligation to man the creche since 1995, a Supreme Court case up here in Trumbull, Creator versus Trumbull. The Supreme Court pretty much undercut any claim that we needed to man it. And I've known that for some time. We've never challenged it, because I actually think if we can't man the creche for part of our vigil, then shame on us. So last year we wanted to have the Nativity Green moved to Sherman Green. We wanted more visibility. We wanted better lighting, better parking. We also wanted adjacent to other businesses to get a cup of coffee and go to the bathroom and the like. So it's a far better location for our event. It's also the center of town. That's where every other group wants to have a presence. That's why they have the late lights and menorahs. There's also many protests in town. A lot of charities want to have fundraisers there and put up their signs for various reasons, because it is probably the predominant public forum in the town of Fairfield. This year, our application, nothing really has changed, with the exception of we spoke to several of the local priests here in town. We're planning on having them come down and bless the creche at the start of our vigil. Perhaps have some other events during the day, and then maybe have a procession from St. Thomas sometime after the evening mass with St. Thomas with Father Martin. We're not sure of any of the details because we haven't gotten the authority to go there yet. And I don't think our creche in any way will burden the Sherman Green. And I think that, I saw some commentary in some of the other minutes that it can hold up to 100, 150 people. I don't think we're going to come anywhere close to that. And I don't think we're going to burden anything.
I'm sorry, can I ask you to hold 1 second? Kelly, can you move the microphone a little bit closer?
Hey, Brian, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear anything now.
Oh, you did?
Okay, then we're just right back.
I'll let Orlando do that. That'd be working.
Is anything on?
Well, Jim's on, right?
Yeah.
McKay, can you hear us?
Just now, it was silent for a couple minutes there.
Sorry about that. All right, we're back. You didn't miss anything.
Great.
All right.
Again, I don't think we're going to place any burden in the downtown area. There's a lot of other parking going on. I think this is a very family-friendly event. A lot of people come from all over town. Those people who know where we are, the Old Post Road is kind of a dark and secluded area. But a lot of people come down with their families to pray, take pictures, bring us cookies. One thing I didn't know people did until I started being the guy to clean up afterwards, but a lot of people come down with mass cards for their family members who passed away during the year, and they leave it there on Christmas Eve. I think it's a great tradition, and I hope it will continue. To try to address some of the concerns that I've looked over at the Board of Selectmen's discussion. I mean, a lot of people were concerned about there being an issue with respect to endorsement of religion. We're still going to have the same sign. It's going to be lit, 6-inch letters, not endorsed by the town of Fairfield, sponsored by the Knights of Columbus. So that shouldn't raise any other endorsement issue. Not only that, there's really not an endorsement issue since other religious groups use the Sherman Green as well, and that they don't require any disclosure. And we're going to be using it consistent with other groups' uses. And I don't think our display is inconsistent with the other secular uses of the town green. We already know that individual charities and organizations place signs and displays on the Sherman Green year-round with their groups, and we're just looking to be given the same opportunity. So, try to be brief, and I'll answer any of your questions.
Thank you. And we certainly, for a moment, don't doubt that it's a wonderful thing that you've been doing since 1989, and we've always been here and we've supported it. We did not support your request last year to move to Sherman Green, and the primary reason last year was COVID. We just weren't approving much of anything. But I don't think I'm going to be in a position personally, but there's a lot of other commissioners here, to support this year. And part of the reason is I went back to check Sherman Green events that we've had, vigils, displays, ceremonies, and we've had 162 events on Sherman Green since the beginning of 2019. Of those events, 157 were either afternoon or concluded at 8 p.m. So there were 5 that were extended to 9 p.m. There was never anything that was allowed on the Sherman Green past 9, and generally the accepted time for everything to be shut down is 8 p.m. on the Sherman Green. Further, of the 162 events, there were a total of 4 events, one this year and 3 back in 2019, that went beyond 4 hours. We've had 2 concerts there that were all-day events, 12 to 9, that are on both sides of that ledger, beyond 8 o'clock and beyond the 4 hours. So we support. We have support, in my opinion, not speaking for anyone else, we support what you were doing. We just support it at the location that it has been since 1989. That is my opinion. But if anyone else has questions and or any thoughts, Mr. Sargent?
Mr. Sargent, just a quick question. You know, I'm just looking at the minutes from last December, December 16th. I'm kind of rehashing, but I'll ask the question again. Is there any particular reason, you know, other than a hot cup of coffee, why you prefer Sherman Green versus Town Hall?
Visibility.
Okay.
It's the exact same reason why every other group wants to be on Sherman Green. That's why they would like the menorahs there. That's why,
I mean, the thing with the menorahs, though, and we addressed this last year in the minutes, is the menorah doesn't stay overnight. And that's kind of the issue, because I think most venues, anybody that comes in there is generally allowed about a 4-hour window, as opposed to, you know, in this case, it could be a couple weeks, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's kind of where we're at, and it's definitely a fine line. I think the commission definitely is supportive of this, and it has been since 1989. That's really not the debate. You know, the debate is this the right spot for you at 24 hours a day times...
They were requesting 3 days.
Oh, just 3 days, okay.
Yeah, 23rd to
So we're talking 72 hours. So, I mean, that's kind of the question that the commission is coming before us. I apologize. I was thinking you were going to be there for a while. And can you tell me those days again?
the afternoon, I drawn the application, the afternoon of the 23rd, and we clean up on the morning of the 25th.
Yeah, the request is from 5 p.m. on the 23rd to 8 a.m. on the 25th.
Okay, and is there anything that's going to be there in between?
We don't have anything on the book.
So that's really the question.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with your concerns. It's the duration of the display, essentially, or the event, or however you want to word it. Right now, they're asking for roughly, however many hours, 72 hours. But like you had said, most of our events that we allow on the green are about 4. So is there a compromise here where they can do a 4-hour event, with their display, and then break it down and do a second one another day? Break it to stay consistent. I mean, that would be potentially an option.
I mean, the other thing that just crosses my thought is, over the course of 72 hours, I mean, what if you were to do 2 days at Town Hall, and then you come into Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, where you have that overnight window? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, and this is more for the commission, where, we could see how it goes, where it is a compromise. And I don't know how easy that is to move over the course, but it seems like, you have a little bit of an army behind you. And would you be amenable to something like that?
Maybe if I understood more, you're saying move the creche from the Sherman Green for Christmas Eve?
Again, this is more directed towards the commission, is...
I think what he's saying is, if you had it basically where it has always been,
mm-hmm.
but on Christmas Eve, which is, I would guess the most critical time,
churches,
if you wanted to relocate it from, 4 to 8, 5 to 9,
mm-hmm.
for that to fall in line with, I know it's a burden, but, to fall in line with all of the other events that we've had with the duration and the concluding time.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that the commission, again, not speaking for everyone here, but that is something that the commission might look to consider more favorably than what we're talking about as a request now.
Have there been communications? I mean, it sounds like we were saying the commission. When you say we, have there been any communications going on before this application?
I keep saying, in my opinion, And,
So,
no.
if there's a proposal, I could be happy to consider, but I just feel like there isn't.
No, I just think that we had this, request last year, and so I
Okay.
think maybe that's what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So I just pulled up the minutes from
Right.
last year, because I recall conversation, but I don't recall this. So pulling up the minutes, not every detail's in there.
First, let me address the concerns about other uses. Now, I've read the regulations, and I don't see there being any limitations with respect to 4 hours or 8 o'clock. And maybe I missed them, but I think I've read these things a couple times through. And obviously, our situation is unique in that it doesn't end at 8. I mean, a vigil, Christmas vigil by itself, by definition, goes into the night. So we are unique in that, and I think there has to be a compelling interest for you not to allow a religious group to comply with their free exercise. And I think asking us to unpack and move something at 8 o'clock, given the size of the display, it would be burdensome. I mean, being the guy who always, I store it in my office, I put it in my truck to bring it down, it's really not that easy, particularly on Christmas Eve. That's why I asked the question. Our hardest time to get guys to stop to man it is between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, because everybody's having their dinner.
Correct.
Everybody wants to come down, at 9 o'clock at night and see their friends and take pictures. Everybody's free during the day, but that Christmas Eve window is my hardest time to find guys to. That's usually when me and my family go down, because I can't find other volunteers who don't have other obligations. We applied for those hours. If the commission says, no, you can only use it these hours, then there's really not a lot I can do about it. I'd like to know, really what the concern is about making us, leave at 8 o'clock. And when you say make us, if we have to leave at 8, would we have to take the display with us?
Yes.
But then how do other people leave signs unmanned on Sherman Green? And then why would we have to take our display, but other people can leave unmanned signs?
They're not supposed to leave unmanned signs.
But they do. There's signs outside of the Tree of Hope every month is when they're today. So there are unmanned signs on the Sherman Green every month of the year, as far as I could tell. And they don't have to have it manned, but why? I'm just trying to figure out, we want to have the vigil. If you're going to say we can't man it, that means we have to take it down. But if we have to take it down, then why do other people get to leave the signs up after 8 o'clock at night or for more than 4 hours?
Sorry.
This is McKay. It sounds like this is going to be the second year in a row I'm the only person that's going to support this, which I think is really unfortunate. Because what I'm hearing is, number one, we don't want to do it because it's something we haven't done before. We don't want to do it because they already have had a space since the 1980s, and we're comfortable with that. But that's not what they're applying for. And I just haven't heard any good reason why they shouldn't be considered just as everybody else. And just because it's maybe an extended time than what we've considered before, to me that's not a no. Like that shouldn't be a reason to say no. And I think the other point is, now we have a tree in Sherman Green that stands decorated for 30 days out of every month, right? And so I just think that we need to treat them how we treat anybody else that comes forward with this. So I am going to make the motion to support this, and I'm sorry if this doesn't go through, because I sense that there's sort of fear of controversy that's going on here, and it's just really disappointing.
Okay, can I say something? I'm relatively new to this commission, so I wasn't here last year. I personally don't see a problem with this at all. I'm not sure why we would be against this at the Green. It seems like it's been going on at 1989 around the corner, no problems. Doesn't seem like a disruption. So I would support this.
McKay, did you make a motion?
So made.
I'm sorry, did you say you plan to make a motion, or you did make a motion?
I certainly plan to, and I'm happy to make it now.
Since you're not here, if I could just ask you to plan to make that motion for just a few more moments, because there's a few other people who have already raised their hand for questions. So I'd like to just have these questions, and then we will come back to you. So I think Jamie, or is it Bridget, you have a question first?
More of just an observation. I feel like we always have the same conversation on this commission about setting precedent, and it's not by any means that this display offends me whatsoever. I'm Catholic, so I think it's a really nice tradition. But I'm wondering if then, since we allow in menorah lighting for 2 days, if I'm correct, not the full 8, will they then ask for 8 days? And then isn't there overlap this year? So is that going to be a problem with
the menorah?
that
There's 2 days, there's 2 events, because there's 2 separate groups. One group is...
So what if each group then asks for 8 days, because Hanukkah lasts for 8 days, 8 nights? And then we've already said yes to
Well,
the
not speculate, because they haven't, and they requested, one group is, has requested they're on schedule for December 22nd from 2 to 5 p.m., and the other one is December 29th for 6 to 7 p.m. So I don't see any reason why we need to speculate that they're going to come and ask for 8 days, because they haven't. And we've had menorah lighting that went back in previous years as well. And they've never attempted to go for anything more than that. Karen?
To what Bridget said, maybe a comment is, it will create more interest in doing similar things, and I think we would have to expect that those things would become as challenges for us as people ask for more similar events. But yeah, be that as it may, I think for me, I haven't been there at night, and maybe just would help us for more of the information is what kind of activity would you expect sort of after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock? Do you expect a certain number of people standing around? Do you expect mostly transient traffic coming in, stopping, and doing their and moving on? Is it what would you suspect it would look like?
Well, I can only limit it based on my experience at the Old Town Hall and what we have planned. Generally speaking, from talking to some of the other people, we're planning on having a blessing sometime in the early evening on the 23rd. And we're going to set up, and probably could be 6 or 7 whenever the parents come home. My experience based at the old location is that a lot of times people just walk by, they drive by, they see the lights, they back up and they get out and they say a prayer, they say hello to us, and they beat and move along. So there's a lot of, and there's also a lot of people who make it part of their destination, like a family tradition, who come down with cookies for us. We generally have it staffed, manned with no less than 2 people. So we usually have some chairs set up right by the creche, and that's it. So a lot of it depends on what other people want to participate. There are other sometimes where people want to come down and see their friends and say hello. And Christmas Eve around midnight, we get there's usually a significant amount of people come down. Somewhere in the range of a couple dozen at a time, or 0 depending on the weather. To see that we put the baby in the cradle at midnight. So a bunch of people come down. It kind of fits. It fits into my family tradition as well, and a lot of the other guys just come down to see each other and put the baby in, sing a song, and then go to bed. So I don't know if that answered your questions, but a lot of it, I can't really tell you because it's a new location and because of COVID.
Right, and I think that's part of the question here is, given the new location, does it create more volume, more traffic? And then you had said you were going to have some kind of joint effort, initiative with St. Thomas Aquinas.
We don't know.
Father Martin.
I don't. Well,
so
it
you could get the entire.
I don't know.
Midnight mass walking over.
That wasn't my idea. To be honest, that was one of the ideas that was tossed out by one of our members, and we spoke to Father Martin about it, and just to see if he's interested. He was more interested in just getting us on the Sherman Green, to be honest. But we hadn't really gotten that far, and I don't even know whether, if he has midnight mass, who's going to be walking down at midnight mass gets out around, 1:15, 1:30. So I don't even really think that's a likely possibility. Although we would welcome to have more of the parish priests get involved in the religious aspect of the group. But I really don't know yet. I'd be happy to report back. In the event that our application was approved, I'd be happy to, provide the commission and the administration, an agenda or an estimate time and stuff like that, as any normal applicant would.
You could put your display at St. Thomas.
They already have one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm honestly a little bit on the fence, not because I'm fully supportive of it. It's more about just, I think, to Bridget's point about the setting the precedent. And so I don't know, Anthony, if you might be able to answer this question a little bit. I think the concern of members of the commission could be potentially, are we opening the floodgates in terms of, I absolutely appreciate that what you're saying is you want to have the same level of visibility as other groups, and I completely respect that. I guess, do you anticipate then, besides, potentially the menorah lighting, and I'm trying to think of anything else, are we going to then all of a sudden be flooded with people wanting displays for 48, 72 hours? And I don't know if that's a question that you're able to answer.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a feel for.
Yeah.
It's not something we've allowed before, so I don't know if that discouraged people from asking, or if, like you said, does this now say, oh, well, that's something we can do.
Right, and then do we set guidelines around for religious observation versus, like, if any community group wanted to have something? That's the only thing I'm kind of still questioning.
May I address your concern in that we've already done it for 40 years.
Right.
So in other words, we haven't seen a deluge.
It's more the location.
We haven't seen a deluge of other people saying, we want to sit out in the middle of the night next to a creche or any other display. So I really don't think there's any reason to think that, to anticipate. And if that is the case, you can always take care of it by regulating.
No, it's a fair point. I just, because of the change in location, being a more visible location, just wondered if that would, set a new precedent. But very fair point.
Anthony, I was trying to pull up my notes from the last time we went over this. What's the town stance on religious displays on Sherman Green?
It's a great question. I don't think the town has a stance. This would be freedom of speech. So we're just trying to follow the law the best we can. To my knowledge, again, is the resolution he talks about that was passed in 1989 for a display that was not approved at the time to make it acceptable, and that's where they had determined it, and that's where it's been since '89. And he mentions the court case in '95 in Trumbull. So again, it's a freedom of speech issue.
And free exercise.
Right.
And you have your sign out.
Yes. So
I would just hate to not allow this because we're worried about scenarios that may or may not happen. We can deal with that when it comes, if it comes. If it was a menorah, lighting were 8 days instead of 2, that wouldn't really be a problem for me either. So, the precedent, I don't see the problem here. I don't want to create issues out of hypothetical scenarios that may or may not happen.
Well, I've been on the commission for a long time, and we, as Bridget said, we have always been very, very careful not to set precedent. If it's something that we think may open the floodgates for a lot of other things. And I'm speaking very generally, activities at the beach, activities at the parks, activities, wherever it is at the teen center. So, we've always been very careful and protective of setting precedent, knowing that, waiving fees. So as soon as you start waiving fees, people are going to see the minutes and say, well, you waived the fees for these people at the Jackie Durrell.
Right.
why are they different from ours? So, yes, it is very important. That
I
we
would just
don't
see the
set
difference is
precedent.
that it's just been down the street and around the corner since 1989. So it's really just a location. It's not really the event itself, so.
Yeah, so why has the town been okay with it at Town Hall but not Sherman Green?
I wasn't around in 1989, so I don't know. I was alive, I just wasn't.
I was, and I knew Nello. And Nello was, I don't know if anyone knew his history, he was also in the RTM, and he was a thorn in both political parties' side. And he pissed everybody off by what he used to do to the Sherman Green without permission, which is why the Board of Selectmen, took over and did it. It was just it was a politically expedient way of giving him some legitimate, I don't think they ever really thought he was going to stay out all night for 3 nights. And he did. He sat outside with his goat. He became somewhat of a local legend. People would stop by and see him. And he would sit out next to his paper mache creche for the 3 days. So that's what you'd have to kind of know Nello's reputation in town to understand why this became a resolution to begin with. And to address your concern about precedent, you guys are, you've been delegated with rulemaking authority by the RTM, right? So if you get a deluge of applications, as long as you pass a resolution or a rule, a regulation that is content neutral and it applies to everybody the same way, you can do whatever you want. But it has to be the same rule. Everybody would have to take down every sign at 8 o'clock, right? Or nobody's allowed to put signs. I mean, it has to be straight across the board. And that's something you guys can, your concern about future problems could be addressed without rejecting our application. That could be taken care of by your rulemaking regulation authority.
Well, and I agree with that point. That was actually one of the points I was going to make. But not only that, a lot of these questions we will not have answers to until we make a step to allow people to try this out. Will we open the floodgates? Maybe, maybe not. But even if we do, I don't know if that's a problem. Like, I think it's actually great that we'd want people to use the green, right? And if it does get out of control, that's what we're empowered to do. We're empowered to, find guidelines, find rules on how to govern this. Like, none of this is a bad thing. That's exactly what we're here for.
It seems there's a lot of support obviously for the event, that between the location and the time frame is where the sticking issues are. Is there potentially a compromise on the time frame? Obviously, you want to go, it's related to Christmas, so is there potentially a compromise that would be more suitable to the commission if, for example, it didn't open until 24th, for example, and then you have one overnight, something where it might be more acceptable for doing an exception like this? Again, I don't want to change your proposal, but in lieu of potentially it not passing, is there something we could do where you could maybe build it on the 24th and have the 24th, which is, I think, the most relevant time frame for this, just as a potential, because I really would love to see it. But again, I'm sort of torn also, given the duration.
Jamie, that's a great point, and that's kind of my biggest concern. I love it. I love the fact that, yeah, you guys should be on there, but you said precedent. So 3 days, what's to happen? Somebody else doesn't come and say, I want 7, I want 10. So I think, again, the question comes down is 3 days acceptable to you? Is 24 hours acceptable to you? If this is a give and take, it's a negotiation.
Well, I'd be happy to negotiate if I was the sole applicant, but
You're not.
Right.
I'm not.
You're the representative.
I am an applicant.
That's my biggest concern.
But I'm an elected member of the group, and I have authority to make the application here.
Yeah.
I guess you guys can vote on whatever motion you want. Quite frankly, it is what it is. But I can't tell you right now I have authority, because I don't, to negotiate. And
in my opinion, whether it's the 24th to the 25th, the 23rd to the 25th, or 2 weeks. The relevant factor is the overnight on the Sherman Green, which I just am not in support of. Yes, Margaret.
Just, so I said I'm on the fence. I have to tell you, Mr. Sargent, something that you said, I'm leaning more towards supporting it, because the reality is, you're right that nobody has started over the last however many years getting tons of applications for multi-day uses. It is a different location. That's the wild card, I guess, is that with a new location, are people all of a sudden going to want it? But I guess that's a good point that I just to kind of share with people that maybe, yeah, I am still concerned about the precedent piece of it for sure, but it is also true that tons of organizations have not been kind of applying for multi-day use.
In December.
In December, yes. Though I want to be mindful of, we wouldn't just be approving things in December. We would be all year round.
But I don't think just as basic municipal law,
Sure.
Approving an application creates a precedent for another application.
Sure.
That isn't the law. That isn't the way the law works. And if you want to change precedent, you can do it by your regulatory.
I'm just kind of sharing with the commission how my thinking is changing through the discussion and more towards supporting it.
All right, McKay, if you want to. McKay?
Yeah, I couldn't grasp all that discussion, but yeah, I move to approve the proposal by the Knights of Columbus for the crush at the town at Sherman Green.
Okay, well, we have a motion and we have a second from Bonnie. Any further discussion from the commission?
Can we add stipulations to it, to a motion, or does the motion stand?
The motion stands as it is. If there's a request to modify a motion, we can consider that, but then it has to go back to the original motion makers. So the motion as it stands now is to accept the request as Mr. Sargent has laid out from 12:23, 5 p.m. to 12:25, 8 a.m. at the Sherman Green. So, again, is there any further discussion in the motion? Yes.
I guess my question was in terms of stipulations. So they've done this in the past with certain criteria where, for example, they demand it 24/7. Can that be a condition of the motion? Condition? Because that's not on the application.
That has not been requested to be removed. So the intent is to continue all other aspects of
Yes,
what's been approved.
that was implicit, and if it wasn't explicit in my presentation, that we plan on manning it, and we plan on having the non-endorsement sign. That we plan on you can consider our past behavior to be predictable of what we're planning on doing this year. The reason it's not on the application is it's kind of a limited form. We want it to be consistent with our past use.
And Mr. Sargent did say that earlier, that it would be consistent with everything else. So it is implied that all other aspects besides the location, and you have provided specific times and dates. So, those are the only changes. Any further discussion? Anything further from the public? And then back to the commission. All those in favor? Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor. All those opposed? So, I'm sorry, it does not pass.
Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Jamie, you said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up, Board of Education report.
So, since our last meeting, the board has approved our capital waterfall, which is now goes on to the town workshop. Within that, we have put out a proposal for a district-wide air conditioning project to the tune of $75 million. So we'll see how that goes. And let's see what else. We are having our town hall scheduled tentatively for December 8th at 8 p.m., location to be determined. And we have our next meeting is next Tuesday night. I think it's going to be a lot of data review, but I don't have the agenda yet.
Can you say what the date was for town hall?
December 8th.
Is there a particular topic?
This is an open town hall with, so this is, the format where you would have direct dialogue with board members.
Yeah.
Superintendent's not present. It's just all board members, and anyone from the town can come and discuss anything that they want.
Oh, that's so fun. Is there a time cap on that?
I don't know, but it's starting at 8 p.m. and it'll probably go late.
8? Oh, sorry.
I know.
I know. 8:30 is just school gets out. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And the director on program report.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't type one up today. I did not have time or this week, so I'm very, very sorry for that. But just to give you a recap, we are in the middle of our fall programming, planning for winter programming. Our big winter sports league is basketball, which we are using. We did receive approval to use the schools. I think as everybody knows, right now, schools through February, I believe, are working under the governor's executive order that everybody that goes inside a school has to wear a mask. So right now, basketball league players, spectators, anybody that's going in that school is going to have to wear a mask. That will include our adult leagues as well. But programs are going well. We are working on a lot of projects right now. We're finishing up the Pine Creek Playground replacement. That was part of our non-recurring capital plan that actually should have finished today. I didn't get down there at the end of the day, but it should have been the final touches on that. Gould Manor, I'm sure if you've driven by it or checked online, you've seen the progress we've made on there. So the sod is down, hydro seeding went in, 2 ball diamonds for the most part are done. We've got some fence work that will take place either later this fall or in the early spring. Tennis court should start getting ripped up tomorrow. That'll continue over the next couple of weeks. Pickleball, basketball, all that will go in, hopefully again within the next few weeks. Playground was ripped out earlier, at the end of last week, earlier this week. The playground equipment has been delayed. It was supposed to be installed starting next week, but as every shipment in the world right now is being delayed. Right now it's a 2-week delay, so we're still looking at early November installation there for the fitness park and the playground. Obviously that may change. Our ARPA funding, the COVID funding, was approved by all the funding bodies. We were given the green light as part of phase 1, so we do have 5 playgrounds that will be scheduled for replacement. If we can get the POs through purchasing later this week, I'll get the order placed and we'll be able to put that again on the calendar for the spring. And the plan would be to go basically 2 and 3 weeks at a time, finish one park, go right on to the next, the same crew, and just try to get all that done within the 5 weeks. We did have a lot of damage to Lake Mohegan, to the beachfront, during Storm Ida. So we're working with FEMA right now. We've had meetings with FEMA, and whether or not the state is going to declare a state of emergency, which would then, reimburse some of the spending that we have. But we had estimated about $500,000 worth of repairs. The one quote we've received so far is just under $400,000, so we were right in the ballpark of where we thought the damages were. There's some dredging that'll need to be done to get some of the sand out and level back off the water, so it's safe when kids and adults are walking in it, and then replenish some of the sand, obviously with new sand onto the beach. And again, we're going to have to go out to bid with that project, so I'm not sure if the work will get done now in the fall or if it's going to be early spring, but the goal still is to have that open for Memorial Day. So luckily we have some time right now. So we'll continue to plug along with that. We had a new staff member start last week, our new Recreation and Aquatics Coordinator, Scott Buchholz. We were able to snag him away from the Stratford YMCA, where he had been for 4 years, running a lot of their different programs and memberships and aquatics. So we are very excited to have him come aboard with us, running our waterfront and some of our parking and pavilions and all that. And then I think the biggest news that has come out recently, just so everybody here is on the same page, is it was mentioned at the Board of Finance that the remediation of Penfield Pavilion, all the fill piles, fill that's underneath the pavilion and underneath the parking lot, is going to need to be remediated. While we don't have a plan in place right now, a tentative closure date of October 31st of 22 was put into effect, so we are not booking any more events at Penfield Pavilion as of that date. So there were a handful of parties that were booked for November, and then into 23 there were a couple that were contacted and fully refunded or offered other dates if they were available for them. But I don't have any updates on the actual process, what the plan is. That will be subject to, I'm sure, plenty of public meetings and hearings. So that's
Mr. Director,
the update.
I have a question.
Sure.
I drove by Gould's, I don't know, 10 days ago, was phenomenal.
Thank you.
So I should drive by this week. I did get a lot of questions, not a lot, but a few, about pickleball. So that's going into Gould?
There will be a pickleball court put perpendicular to the tennis court.
Oh, it's there, not where the playground is.
Correct.
Did you just mention something about a basketball court?
That's going to go right next to the pickleball court, half basketball court next to the pickleball court and tennis court.
There's room there?
There is.
Okay, so you're leaving the
Tennis?
two kids' facilities, the playground.
Oh,
That's gone?
So the one that's on the ball diamond side of the pond,
Yeah.
the large playground, that will still be a playground similar in size and number of amenities and all that. The small playground on the opposite side of the pond,
Yeah.
the one from like the 70s,
That's gone.
that one is gone, and we're putting in the Fairfield's first outdoor fitness park.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I've gotten questions on both sides, I just didn't have an answer.
Yep.
But pickleball, basketball will be where the tennis courts are right now.
All right.
Yep.
And the tennis.
And the tennis.
I gave that advice, I said it was the But Andy, don't trust me.
Anthony, the baseball fields, are they going to have permanent fencing around the outfield?
No.
No.
So,
The way it was?
it will be the way it was, temporary fencing, but what we did was we actually improved it where there will be sleeves in the ground, permanent sleeves in the ground that get capped. So in the fall, they'll get pulled, but we can uncap them in the spring and put the fence right back in the ground.
At ground level?
At ground level,
So
so it won't be a
there's
tripping
no one's gonna
hazard, no,
trip
it
on
won't
it.
interfere with sledding hill or anything like that. However, right now, because of the amount of investment we've put into that park, there was a temporary 8-foot tall construction fence that went around the entire park and that hill. So the plan is to essentially keep people off that park and hill and everything else until the spring when we're ready to open up the entire park.
So no sledding?
There will be no sledding on that hill this winter. There will be no ice skating on that pond this winter as well.
When you redid the fields, were you able to steal that couple feet needed to make them legal with league?
Yeah, so what we ended up doing was the field closest to Crestwood, we made a legit, legal Little League field. We did. And then what we did on the one next to the pond, and this was really working with the league, we wanted to make sure they wanted to keep that one adjustable so they can play 50, 70 games there. So they'll have the portable mound back in place there, and we built the mound so essentially you'll be able to slide back and forth. And the bases will be set at 70, so the drop downs is what they'll use when they're using the 60-foot bases.
So you were able to cut into that sledding hill?
We didn't have to. We didn't. We had enough space.
Okay.
We had enough space.
Which is good. When we were improving Golden Manor, that both ballparks a few years ago, the neighbors were all about that flooding.
I remember.
How many
Like the
50,
miniature
70
one.
fields do we have now? Two?
It's just
So
like a
that'll be
little
a segment of Woods and then.
Well, Woods and Gould are dedicated, really like the only two that are dedicated 50/70. We use Tom Hayden and we use Dwight, and you can use Sherman. So, I mean, there are a few others that get used. Veterans is another one that they can use, though the outfield's a little short.
Yeah.
And one last question I had, Penfield, the damage that was done, not Penfield, Mohegan. Was any of that covered with insurance?
We are looking into that right now. I know our risk manager, I believe, is filing an insurance claim. The town does have a deductible.
$400,000 deductible?
I have a question. The playgrounds that are gonna, be upgraded, have you already identified which ones?
Yeah. The 5 that'll be going in the spring were, so when I had done an assessment of all our playgrounds, we had identified what the 5 ones that needed replacement first were, and those are the ones that are getting replaced. So it happens to be Tungus Hill, Melville Park, Lincoln Park, Dover, and
Pine Creek?
no, that one got done.
The one next to the fire station?
Palomar, Highwood Park.
Fire station or Barry?
We have 29 playgrounds in town.
Wow.
I grew up in this town and I just learned that Palomar was a park like 3 years ago.
Where's Palomar?
Yeah,
Off Fairfield Woods Road.
Off Fairfield Woods, off of Highway.
across from the library,
Tiny little
down.
park.
Oh,
It's
okay.
actually a good park, yeah.
The Pine Creek one is a great hidden little gem.
Yeah.
I know, right? I'm gonna have to go check that
Well,
out.
it's brand new now, so.
We had some
Yeah.
issues with
Right by
Palomar a few years ago as well.
You can park there, right?
To the point where we have
Yeah.
to take the rims off the
Oh,
hoops.
there's a
Well, I
one
drive,
lot.
I walk by there all the
Yeah.
time and people leave their trash everywhere and I always yell for kids, they think I'm a crazy old man.
All right. Anything for the good of the order? Thank you, Mr. Dudley. All right. Hearing nothing further, then we are adjourned.